The vastness of the Galactic Empire's flagship loomed overhead, casting a long shadow over the small human colony on New Haven. Emperor Ryloff's fleet arrived without warning, a chilling testament to the Empire's might. Ships as large as cities, their hulls gleaming in the light of the distant star, floated silently in the cold vacuum. Ryloff stood on his command deck, looking down at the planet through the massive windows. A cruel smile played across his lips as he spoke to his inner circle. "We've conquered thousands of worlds, crushed rebellions, and eradicated species. And now this insignificant colony of humans will be our next triumph." His voice was a deep rumble, filled with confidence and disdain. One of his officers, a gaunt and pale figure standing nearby, nodded. "The humans are primitive, my lord. Their resistance is futile." Ryloff turned away from the window, his eyes gleaming with arrogance. "Indeed. And their attempts to fight back will be nothing more than a fleeting nuisance. We will strike swiftly and decisively." On the ground, inside a high-tech bunker hidden beneath the colony's surface, Captain Alex Grant stood, his fingers trembling over the controls. The calm, seasoned demeanor he usually carried seemed absent, replaced by a focused, razor-sharp intensity. He had seen many battles, but this was different. The Empire's reputation for invincibility was more than just a threat, it was a cold, unrelenting certainty. The human race had never faced anything like this before. Beside him, Lieutenant Maya Elon paced back and forth, her boots clicking against the metal floor with each step. Her eyes were hard, her fists clenched at her sides. She had lost family to the Empire's previous conquests, her rage a fire that threatened to consume her. "They think we're weak," Maya muttered, her voice edged with venom. "They believe they can wipe us out without even breaking a sweat." Alex met her gaze. "They may be right, but we won't let them win without a fight." Maya's eyes flashed with determination, though a flicker of doubt lingered behind them. "What do we do now, Captain? They're already here. They're not coming for a treaty or peace talks. They're here to wipe us off the map. We fight back. We survive. And we make them regret underestimating us." Alex turned toward the holographic map on the wall, fingers brushing over the glowing lines that marked the positions of the Empire's fleet. The odds were slim, but humanity had done the impossible before. He wasn't ready to throw in the towel yet. "We're outnumbered, outgunned, and they have technology we can't even begin to understand," Maya said, her voice tight with frustration. "How do you plan on winning this one?" Alex paused for a moment, considering her words. There was a vulnerability in her voice, one he hadn't expected. She wasn't just angry, she was scared. And who could blame her? Fear was a luxury they could no longer afford, but it was still there, just beneath the surface. "We won't win by matching their strength," Alex replied, his voice steady, almost soothing. "We'll outsmart them. They think we're primitive, Maya. They think they know everything about us, but we have one advantage: unpredictability. If they think we're weak, then they're not prepared for how dirty we'll fight." Maya's eyes narrowed. "And how do we start?" "We start by hitting them where it hurts," Alex said, the beginnings of a plan forming in his mind. "We'll need to take out their communication hubs first, cripple their ability to coordinate. If we can create confusion in their ranks, we might just have a chance." She nodded, though the tension in her shoulders didn't ease. "And what about the colony? What about the civilians? We can't just leave them to the Empire's mercy." "We won't," Alex said firmly. "But we need to act fast, before they can retaliate. We'll evacuate the non-combatants, and then we'll engage." His fingers danced across the control panel as the details of his plan took shape. As he worked, the atmosphere in the bunker grew thick with the tension of impending war. Every second counted. The Empire was closing in, and the odds were narrowing with each passing moment. On the surface, the first barrage of Empire ships' weapons lit up the sky. Blasts of energy crackled through the atmosphere, slamming into the colony's defenses. The ground shook beneath their feet as explosions tore through the buildings, the once bustling colony now a target of unrelenting firepower. The Empire's arrogance was already becoming apparent in their tactic, a show of overwhelming force, a statement of dominance. The lights in the bunker flickered as the tremors from above intensified. Maya gripped the edge of the control table, her knuckles white. "They're not wasting any time." Alex turned to face her, his expression unwavering. "Neither are we." Without another word, he activated the emergency broadcast system, sending a message to every surviving human on the planet. It was brief, but its impact would resonate through every ear that heard it. "To all remaining military personnel, prepare for immediate counteroffensive. The Empire may think we're beaten, but we will prove them wrong. We will fight for our future. We will fight for humanity." The message echoed through the bunker, filling the room with an energy that felt almost tangible. Alex's heart beat faster, his mind racing with the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The Empire was here, but humanity had not yet given up. As the first strike hit the ground above, the time for doubt had passed. It was time to make the Empire regret underestimating humanity. And it was time for Alex and his team to rise to the challenge. The hum of the bunker's overhead lights was the only sound that accompanied Captain Alex Grant as he stared at the sprawling display of data in front of him. The Empire's fleet was closer now, just on the edge of the planet's atmosphere. The delicate blue glow of Earth's sun reflected off the screens, casting a cold light that made the room feel too small, too confined. The weight of humanity's survival pressed heavily on Alex's chest. Beside him, Lieutenant Maya Elon stood rigid, her fingers tapping a rapid, nervous rhythm against the table. Her dark eyes were locked on the map, tracking the Empire's fleet in real time. The unease she radiated was palpable. She was young, but her anger ran deeper than most people's fear, a force that, if channeled right, could either break her or fuel her to do the impossible. "You know what's coming, right?" Maya's voice was low, almost a growl. Alex didn't answer immediately. He was thinking, analyzing, formulating a plan. His mind was always calculating the next move, trying to stay one step ahead. But Maya's words weren't lost on him. The human race had always been at a disadvantage. They didn't have the tech, the firepower, or the numbers to fight a galactic empire. But there was one thing they did have: the ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to never give up, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. "We're going to hit them where it hurts," Alex finally replied, his voice steady but grim. "This isn't going to be a conventional fight. The Empire thinks we're weak, that we're predictable. That's exactly what they're counting on. We'll show them how wrong they are." Maya's lips curled into a wry smile, though there was no humor in it. "And how exactly are we supposed to do that? We don't have a fleet to match theirs. We barely have enough to defend the colony." Alex turned, meeting her gaze. His eyes were tired, yet there was something unwavering in them. "We don't need to match them. We need to outthink them." The words settled between them, heavy with the gravity of what they implied. Maya shook her head. She didn't doubt Alex's intelligence or his leadership, but the situation was so dire that even the best strategies seemed too far-fetched. A series of beeps from the console broke the tension. Alex's hand moved instinctively to the controls, bringing up a holographic image of the Empire's fleet. The flagship stood at its center, a colossal structure surrounded by dozens of warships, their weapons primed. It was a sight that would have sent most commanders into a panic. Alex didn't flinch. "We need to hit them fast. There's an old human tactic, one we used during our wars on Earth. It's called asymmetrical warfare. We can't fight them head-to-head, but we can disrupt their command, make them fight a battle on our terms." Maya leaned over the console, her interest piqued. "What do you have in mind?" Alex's fingers danced across the controls, bringing up schematics of the Empire's fleet. "Their flagship has a weakness. It's heavily shielded, but it's also central to their communication network. If we can take that down, we can cripple their entire operation. Their fleet will be blind, and that's when we make our move." Maya's eyes flickered with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "And how do we take down the flagship? Do we have the firepower?" "No. But we don't need firepower. We need precision." Alex's voice had taken on a cold, detached quality. This was what he did best: find the small, overlooked weakness in the enemy's armor and exploit it. But even he knew that their plan was more risky than anything they had ever attempted. If they failed, there would be no second chance. He turned toward Maya, his expression serious. I need you to assemble a team. You'll be leading a covert operation to infiltrate the flagship's communication systems. We'll use the colony's defense grid to mask your approach. You have one shot at this, Maya. Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, the world outside the bunker seemed to fade away. The weight of the task ahead loomed over them, but something in Maya's gaze shifted. There was no fear now, just determination. I won't fail you, sir. Alex nodded. I know you won't. As Maya left to gather her team, Alex remained at the console, staring at the fleet above. His mind ran through every possibility, every contingency plan. The Empire's arrogance was their greatest asset and their biggest flaw. They underestimated humanity at every turn, believing their technological superiority would guarantee victory. But Alex knew the truth. The human spirit couldn't be measured in ships or weapons. It was something that could only be seen in the most dire of circumstances, when there was nothing left but sheer willpower. The calm before the storm was over. With a final glance at the starry expanse beyond, Alex turned toward the entrance of the bunker. He had a plan, but it wouldn't matter if it wasn't executed flawlessly. The next few hours would determine the fate of the human race. And there was no turning back. The sirens screamed, their wailing echoing through the bunker like a living thing. Alex Grant's eyes snapped to the wall of monitors. His fingers were already flying across the controls, moving faster than his mind could consciously track. The Empire was launching its first wave. Here we go, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. He could feel the cold sweat beating on the back of his neck despite the sterile chill in the room. Beside him, Lieutenant Maya Elon stiffened. Her normally fierce composure faltered for a split second, her gaze flickering to the screen that showed their dwindling forces. They're coming in fast, she said, her voice tight. We're outnumbered. Alex didn't look at her. He couldn't afford to. He had a plan, he had to stick to it. He tapped the holographic interface again, zooming in on the fleet formation. They're underestimating us, he said, more as a reminder to himself than to Maya. They think we'll just fold when they hit us hard. But they haven't seen us fight. Maya's eyes narrowed. Do you really believe we can hold them off with? She cut herself off, eyes flickering back to the screen. A small, smirking image of the Empire's lead cruiser dominated the screen, accompanied by the red blips of enemy ships, signaling the impending assault. Alex took a steadying breath. We're not going to hold them off. We're going to hit them where it hurts. We make them regret underestimating humanity. There was a pause, heavy and thick with uncertainty. Maya clenched her fists, her knuckles whitening, and then spoke again, this time softer, almost hesitant. And what if we fail? Alex turned to face her, his eyes meeting hers with a steely intensity. Then we make them remember our name. We don't have the luxury of failure. There's no retreat, no surrender. The truth of it hit both of them hard, but there was no time for hesitation. The Empire's fleet had breached the atmosphere. Outside, the sky above New Haven darkened as the vast shadow of the flagship eclipsed the sun. The battle for humanity's survival had begun. The first strike came without warning. A blast of red light and the earth shook beneath their feet as explosions erupted in the distance. Alex barely flinched as the rumble rattled the walls. His focus was unwavering. Shields are holding, Maya said, her voice tight but resolute. For now. But the countdown on Alex's screen showed they didn't have much time. The enemy ships were already adjusting their trajectory, closing in on New Haven with calculated precision. This is it, Alex muttered. Time to see if they really believe in that invincibility of theirs. He punched a button, sending a flurry of commands to the other bunkers scattered around the planet. Hidden underground, a network of human defense stations began to hum to life. In the moments that followed, every hidden weapon in the planet's arsenal aimed itself at the Empire's flagship. Alex's fingers hovered over the launch button. Ready, Maya confirmed, her voice steady now, a sharp contrast to her earlier doubts. "On my mark," Alex said, his heart pounding in his chest. The seconds ticked by, slower than ever before. 3, 2, 1. He pressed the button. Across the planet, missiles, small, unassuming in comparison to the massive fleet above, launched in rapid succession, streaking through the sky. In a perfect arc, they ascended, reaching the apex of their flight path before plunging toward the Empire's flagship. There was a moment of silence before a series of explosions rocked the ship. The unexpected attack was not powerful enough to destroy it, but it was enough to throw the Empire into disarray. Alex's eyes darted to the readouts. "Direct hit," he murmured. The system had done its job, temporarily disrupting the flagship's shields and power systems. But it wouldn't last. Maya's voice broke the momentary silence. "They'll retaliate. This won't be enough." "I know," Alex replied. "We're buying time. That's all we can do." The tactical displays updated, and Alex watched as the fleet recalibrated, shifting into formation. The Empire's retaliation was swift, devastating. Beams of light lashed out, striking the surface of New Haven with explosive force. More explosions echoed in the distance, and the ground trembled as massive craters began to form, swallowing whole sections of the colony. Maya's jaw clenched, her face ashen. "How long until they reach us?" "Not long," Alex said, eyes narrowing. "But we have a few minutes. They're focused on the larger targets, New Haven's shield generators. If we can keep them distracted long enough, we might have a chance to hit them again." "How? What do you suggest we do?" Maya asked, the strain in her voice betraying her panic. Alex hesitated, feeling the weight of the situation in his bones. He wasn't sure how many more chances they'd get. The seconds were slipping away. His mind raced, calculating possibilities. "We launch a decoy, get them to focus on something else. We give them something too tempting to ignore." Maya frowned. "And what's that?" Alex turned to the screen, then back to Maya. There was no room for second-guessing now. "Us." The silence that followed felt heavier than the blast that had just rocked the ground. Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. "You want to sacrifice ourselves to draw their fire?" Alex's gaze never wavered. "I'm not asking for a sacrifice. I'm asking for a strategy. A chance to take them down before it's too late." Maya swallowed hard, but there was no room for indecision now. "Let's do it." Outside, the first waves of Empire fire began to converge on the colony, tearing through the shield. But for Alex, the fight was just beginning. They would make the Empire regret their overconfidence, no matter the cost. The ground trembled beneath Alex Grant's feet as the first wave of Empire fire slammed into New Haven's last remaining defenses. He could feel the shockwave reverberating through the walls of the bunker, but he didn't flinch. There was no time for hesitation. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal, and the hum of systems running at maximum capacity filled his ears. "Shields are down to 30%. Maya's voice came through the calm, strained but clear. "We're running out of time." Alex's eyes remained fixed on the tactical screen. The Empire's fleet was a massive wall of destruction, a relentless force closing in on their position. Every second felt like a countdown to extinction. He spoke without turning. "We need to keep them distracted. I'll launch the decoy as soon as we're in position." Maya's voice crackled through his earpiece again. "And what if this doesn't work? What if—" "It will work," Alex cut her off, his voice hard. "It has to. They've underestimated us since the beginning. If we can make them think we're still on the defensive, we can set up a real strike. We'll hit them where they least expect it." His mind was a blur of calculations, probabilities, and sheer will. The plan was risky. There was no getting around that. But there was no room for failure, not now. Humanity had fought its way into this corner, and now it would claw its way out. The outside world seemed to burn with the fury of the Empire's bombardment. Each shot that landed on the surface of New Haven sent plumes of dust and debris into the sky, blackening the atmosphere. It felt like the very planet was screaming, and every tremor beneath Alex's boots was a grim reminder of the stakes. Inside the bunker, the hum of machinery was the only comfort. It was a sound of defiance, a promise that they hadn't surrendered yet. He adjusted the parameters on his console, sending a series of commands to the decoy drones stationed on the outskirts of the colony. They would be the bait. In the Empire's eyes, they would look like a full-on human counterattack, a desperate, all-or-nothing strike to slow the Empire's progress. Maya's voice returned, much softer this time. Are you sure about this? We're already pushing it with the decoys. What if they realize we're bluffing? Alex's jaw clenched. If we don't give them a reason to think we're serious, they'll wipe us out without a second thought. His gaze flicked to the live feed of the decoys as they launched from their hidden silos. The drones rose into the sky, moving at breakneck speeds to create the illusion of a massive ground assault. The Empire's ships immediately adjusted their course, locking onto the decoy signals as expected. But Alex's mind was already calculating the next step. Decoys are in position, Maya said. They're buying us time. But we don't have long. You better be ready for the real strike. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, but his resolve remained unshaken. I'm ready. Outside, the Empire's retaliation was swift. The flagship loomed above, and Alex could feel the weight of its presence like a looming storm. It was an indomitable force, but it had a fatal flaw. It relied too heavily on its size, on brute strength, and it was blind to the human ingenuity that had led to its eventual downfall. Alex glanced at Maya, who had positioned herself at a separate control panel, her face drawn but determined. The stress of the situation was evident in the tautness of her posture, the way her hands clenched and unclenched as she worked. She wasn't just fighting for survival, she was fighting for something deeper, a need to prove to herself that humanity could stand tall against impossible odds. She looked over at Alex, meeting his gaze for the briefest moment. The air between them crackled with unsaid words. Then, with a nod, she turned back to her console, her focus unwavering. The tactical screen flashed green as the final component of the plan came into play. A series of smaller, human ships launched from the lower levels of the bunker, streaking toward the Empire's vulnerable flank. It was a final desperate gambit, a risky move that would either cripple the Empire or be their undoing. Alex's breath caught as the ships cut through the atmosphere. They were small, far weaker than anything the Empire had, but they had one thing the enemy didn't: unpredictability. The Empire was focused on the decoys, thinking the humans were trying to hold them off with nothing more than scraps of technology. The human ships zipped past the Empire's perimeter, their targets locked. Alex had given them one job: cause chaos, disrupt the enemy's communication, and then get out. They would need every ounce of luck to succeed. Seconds later, an explosion rocked the sky, and the Empire's flagship shuddered as the blast hit. Alex's hand instinctively gripped the edge of the console. Maya's voice crackled in his earpiece. The flagship shields are down. We've done it. Now's your chance. The moment Alex had been waiting for arrived. He issued the final command to activate their backup weapon, a single, powerful EMP burst capable of disabling the entire fleet's systems. It was humanity's ace in the hole, a last-ditch effort to bring down the Empire's technological advantage. For a heartbeat, everything seemed to stand still. Then, the EMP fired. Across New Haven, a flash of light illuminated the sky as the entire Empire fleet flickered and sputtered. Ships lost power, their systems short-circuiting in the blink of an eye. The flagship, once so imposing, now drifted aimlessly, a massive, broken hulk in the sky. Now! Alex shouted, slamming his hand onto the control panel. Maya's voice rose with renewed strength. All units, engage! For humanity! The last wave of human resistance surged forward, weapons firing as they dove into the heart of the crippled Empire fleet. The first strike had been their decoy, but this was the real battle. Humanity had finally caught the Empire off guard. In the chaos of the moment, Alex's eyes caught Maya's through the haze of explosions. There was no more doubt in her gaze, just the burning fire of victory. The Empire had underestimated them. And now, They would pay for it.